presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the National Championship game.
This is Duck Insider.
These are good problems to have, right? So much success that you have more than one place to be.
5-3, touchdown, Oregon.
Off a dribble, launches, and hits the three. Oregon leads.
What a great opportunity it is to be able to play at University of Oregon.
I'm just incredibly proud to be a part of something like this.
She wants another three. Oh, three in a row.
Big Ten champions.
National champions, yes. The Ducks take home an indoor national title.
We are so privileged and so fortunate. We get to see all these young people. We get to see this incredible growth, which is what college is all about.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Now let's go live to the Country Financial Studio to talk Oregon Duck athletics.
It's a Wednesday inside the Country Financial Studio. Oregon preparing on the baseball diamond for a Big Ten tournament. The Big Ten tournament going on right now. Oregon's first game will be tomorrow at 4 o'clock against Michigan State. Also on Friday at 4 o'clock against Nebraska. The Ducks are trying to advance into the bracket round of the Big Ten tournament. Oregon softball also preparing for a regional tournament coming up at the Jane this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and potentially on Sunday for the Ducks. And also, Oregon women's golf was in action at the NCAA Championships. Oregon made it to the semifinals for the second year in a row and came up just a shot short against Northwestern. Oregon gave it a real run at the NCAA Championships in Carlsbad, California. The Ducks lost 3-2 in match play in the semifinals to Northwestern. Northwestern and Stanford will now face off for the national championship today. Tong An and Karen Suru won the individual matchups for Oregon yesterday, but Tiffany Wong, Suvachayev and Achitham, and Kiara Romero all came up short as Northwestern took down Oregon. It came down to the 18th hole. Kiara Romero was going up against Northwestern's golfer. Kiara Romero was one down going into the hole, striped a great drive. Northwestern had a similarly good drive. The Wildcats had their approach shot first and dropped it off of the green into a basin right short of a cliff to the green for Northwestern. Would have been really tough up and down. Kiara Romero's approach shot flew 2 yards too long. She was right on line. If she had landed it just shy of that bunker, it trickles all the way down to the hole. It was just a bit long. She had to get aggressive out of the bunker, try to hole out from the bunker, couldn't get out of the bunker, and ultimately Oregon ended up dropping in the semifinals. It was the second year in a row and the third time in the last 4 seasons in which Oregon has reached the national semifinals, and the Ducks did so with a 5-player lineup of all underclassmen. A gutsy effort from a young group that really gave Northwestern a run for their money in an effort to make it into the NCAA Championship final today. The Ducks came up just a bit short, but still a stellar season for Oregon golf. Head coach Derek Radley, he had a message for his team in the huddle after the result for Oregon yesterday, and still finished top 4 in the country. It's nothing to sneeze about. Oregon, they put up a really strong effort in Carlsbad at the NCAA Championships.
Nothing to absolutely hang our heads about and be proud of what you did for this season, because it was an absolutely record-setting season for us. You guys worked so hard, you fought through amazing adversity, and you were there together for each other, and that's the most important part, because we're family. Okay? And I'm so thankful for each and every one.
Derek Radley talking to his team after the Ducks came up just short at the NCAA Championships, but still a really strong season for Oregon women's golf. After those words, Derek Radley, he also said, "I am so incredibly proud of this team. They fought the entire week and left absolutely everything they had out there on the golf course. This is such a special group, and the things that they've been able to accomplish this season are truly amazing. They played for each other every step of the way and have nothing to hang their heads about. It's an honor to be their coach. Sentiment from us over here is absolutely mutual. It has been fantastic to watch Oregon women's golf navigate through this spring season. The Ducks, with the result into the national semifinals, earn another invite into the East Lake Cup this fall. As a result of making it to the national semifinals, East Lake Cup, Oregon was in it this year. If you don't remember, it's almost a replica of the match play round in the NCAA Championships, where the teams that advance to match play are welcomed into the East Lake Cup and they'll play in match play again. And there really aren't very many opportunities throughout the year to get match play experience. A lot of these events, a lot of these meets, they're stroke play. And so getting an invite to the East Lake Cup, Coach Radley, he talked about it when Oregon was invited this year, how vital the experience was for Oregon to play in those match play environments to be prepared for what the Ducks just went through at the NCAA tournament. In the NCAA Championships. And sure, Ducks, they came up just short of making it to the national final. We're incredibly close once again for Oregon, but I think that experience, especially for a young group like I mentioned, is invaluable. The Ducks, they are poised to make yet another run next spring, and well, this spring wasn't too shabby of a run either for Oregon. In the 7 matches that Oregon played in this spring, the Ducks finished first place as a team 3 times, second place as a team 3 times, and 5th place once. The Ducks never finished outside the top 5 as a team in this spring. Oregon also won one of 8 Big Ten championships for the university as Oregon took home a women's golf Big Ten championship. Oregon also had 3 individual championships this spring as Suvachayev and Achitham won the Alice and John Wallace Classic for an individual title. Karen Suru won the Julie Inkster Classic to finish in first place. And Kiara Romero won both the Big Ten Individual Championship and the NCAA Gold Regional Championship as an individual. Kiara Romero also carded 3 second-place finishes throughout this spring at the Therese Hessian Regional Challenge, the Alice and John Wallace Classic, and the Charles Schwab WCI. Kiara Romero had 2 first-place finishes and 3 second-place finishes over the course of the spring. She finished inside the top 10 in every event this spring, including an 8th-place finish at the NCAA Championships in individual play from Friday to Monday of this week. One heck of a season for Oregon stellar sophomore Kiara Romero, who was also named the Big Ten Golfer of the Year and to the All-Big Ten First Team, as well as an Annika Award finalist for the best golfer in women's NCAA golf. Really strong season for Kiara Romero. Suvachayev and Achitham and Karen Suru were both also honored as all Big Ten first teamers, as well as Tong An being recognized as a Big Ten second teamer. Tong An had one heck of a weekend this weekend, especially yesterday in match play. It came down to her matchup in the quarterfinals against Texas, and in playoff holes, Tong An was able to outlast her Texas opponent to win that matchup. And then in semifinals, Tong An won her matchup as she holed in a chip late in the round to ultimately defeat Northwestern's opponent and put a point on the board for Oregon. Tong An, as a freshman, stellar season and performed in match play. And I give a lot of credit to head coach Derek Radley. A group of all underclassmen. Coach Radley put one heck of an effort on the course. Performance in and performance out for Oregon women's golf. As I mentioned, the Ducks never finished lower than 5th place. I think Coach Radley was rightfully recognized as the Big Ten Coach of the Year, and the future with such a young squad is bright for Oregon women's golf moving forward. The Ducks have been national semifinalists in 3 of the last 4 years. Coach Radley has this squad knocking on the door, and they're poised for another run next season. Disappointing that Oregon didn't get to advance today to play Stanford in the national championship, but it was still one heck of a run, and a stressful, anxiety-ridden, but eventful last few days watching Oregon out on the course at the NCAA Championships. And when you're playing competitive, tight golf down the stretch, well, that's what it's supposed to be. For us fans, at least. You're watching, you're rooting on everybody, and the emotion that Tong On exuded after she won the quarterfinals for Oregon, that was top class. If you haven't seen the video, go to Oregon Women's Golf social media channels on Twitter and go and listen to her reaction after she sunk the putt to send Oregon to the semifinal round. That is the emotion that I think that collegiate athletics is all about. So a tremendous run for Oregon women's golf. Disappointing that the Ducks couldn't get it done to advance to the national final, but still a stellar season for Derek Radley's squad from start to finish. I said that it was the weekend of championships last weekend, and, well, Oregon got it done in a few big ways last weekend in the weekend of championships. You just call it the month of championships, maybe, because Oregon continues to work for more championships. Oregon women's golf came up just short, but a Big Ten tournament is on the line this weekend for Oregon baseball. We sat down with Joey Mack a little bit ago to preview the Big Ten tournament for Oregon baseball as the Ducks won the Big Ten regular season title over the weekend, but also are competing for a Big Ten tournament title this week. The conversation with Joey Mack coming up when we return after this on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial. Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano with you, and Joey Mack from his hotel room in Omaha, Nebraska. Joey, it's a great hotel room once again.
Omaha is a great place. I'm glad that we get the hopeful audition for what is to come. I mean, I'll be honest, like when I saw in moving to the Big Ten, like one of the things I looked at, where's the Big Ten baseball tournament? And the fact that it's in Omaha right now, you're playing where the College World Series is being played. It is kind of cool. Like, I fully admit, Ryan, like the College World Series has been something that's on my bucket list, and now getting a chance just to see the ballpark, certainly a different environment when it's for the national championship, not a conference championship. but it has been cool just to kind of get like the scouting report, even just on like the area. You know what I mean? Like the walk around the ballpark, seeing what everything's like as the tournament is played while Oregon gets ready for its first game. It's pretty cool just to see a little bit of the scouting report around Omaha. And I'll tell you what, like, the crowds aren't sold out at the facility for this, or at least in the early rounds of the tournament here during the week. But I'll tell you what, like, there's a lot of places that you just walk to, like, you feel how this thing could really pop off when you're here in June. So it's been kind of fun to get that scouting report.
Well, and I think that's vital for this team. This team's so involved in terms of the visualization part of it all, and going through the motions first and experiencing the experience before it happens so that you're prepared for the moment. But Joey, I know we've had conversations, and you've always said you'd never go to Omaha unless Oregon made the College World Series.
I know.
Does it feel like you're cheating a little bit? I mean, the Ducks
Yes.
are there, they're playing.
Yes. I mean, it's so funny that you bring that up, because I actually had talked to Jerry about this once upon a time. Like, I just don't want to play Creighton, like I didn't want to be in Omaha before it was like the Omaha that we all imagine. It's a little bit like I had never been to Oklahoma City before I went to the Women's College World Series with the softball team, gosh, now 10 years ago. And it was like, man, like that's the time to go, right? Like it's a little bit like how I feel like everyone that goes to Eugene for the first time to either see a football game at Autzen Stadium, which is kind of a recent development in the overall history of college athletics. But then to take that a step further, like you go to Tracktown USA and you're at Hayward Field, you're at the new Hayward Field. Like people talk about how that's the time that you go to Eugene, right? Like I think there's something to be said for that. But look, the fact that the tournament just happens to be in Omaha for Big Ten baseball, I'm all for it. But I do hope that, maybe there's some poetry here and that I've said like, nah, I didn't want to go to Omaha until there was a World Series to go to. And now maybe that's going to happen this year. I mean, Oregon certainly has the potential to do it. The Ducks have been knocking on the door of it the last few years. And I think that's worthy of more discussion, right? Like this is a team that's been to back-to-back super regionals. Why not third time a charm?
And for this team, it's been a lot of talk about Omaha is the goal. That's kind of the next step for this team to take, and maybe it is another long road trip to the Midwest for Oregon coming up in a few weeks, but you're on a long road trip in the Midwest that didn't start in Omaha, Nebraska. It started in Iowa, where the Ducks were competing for a Big Ten regular season title against the Hawkeyes, needed to win all three, needed to get some help. The Ducks did. So Joey, just recap for me the end of the regular season in Oregon, how they were able to navigate through this weekend to a Big Ten title.
Well, I think that the second game of the series against Iowa was really critical. I mean, Grayson Grinsell pitched like one of the best in the country to beat a guy that was also up for Conference Pitcher of the Year in Cade Obermueller and beat him soundly. That was the most runs that Cade Obermueller had allowed in that game all season. So Oregon's offense did its job. Oregon's pitching staff and just Grayson Grinsell did his job in that first game. So I thought the second game was really critical. Like Jason Wrights has settled into being one of the best pitchers in this conference, and the all-conference honors reflect this. But in just conference games alone, Jason Wrights has been outstanding as just a pitcher. And I look at the ERA at the end of this season in conference games. Grayson Grinsell had a 1.36 ERA in conference games. Jason Wrights was third in the league. Grinsell was first with a 2.60 ERA in conference games. In all games, Jason Wrights was third in earned run average. Grayson Grinsell was first in earned run average among Big Ten players in all games. So, look, the point that I'm making is that those two guys, you felt really good about it going into the weekend. Now, Colin Clark has not had those same kinds of numbers, but has still been very, very capable. And to put this in perspective for everybody, Colin Clark is 22nd in the conference in earned run average among all pitchers, including relievers. So, like, that tells you he's still been really good. But I felt like that second game was really critical because after UCLA had lost to Northwestern, Iowa had the same thoughts that Oregon did. Like, okay, UCLA has now dropped a game, and it really does come down to controlling your own destiny. And Oregon got down in that game, ended up coming back to win that game. The player of the week last week in Ryan Cooney, one of his big hits over the course of the weekend, was the difference maker. Got Oregon back in the lead. Mark Wasikowski called it like the gritty and toughness win. And he actually said that he's not sure Oregon wins that game if the Ducks don't go through what they did at Ohio State. And there wouldn't have been maybe as many stressful moments and fireworks down the stretch had Oregon not lost 2 games on a doubleheader day at Ohio State. Ohio State finished last in the conference, so that was the head scratcher game. A lot of people at Iowa, actually, Ryan, were asking me like, so what happened there? And I was like, well, I got to defer to Ryan because I didn't make that trip. And so I just deferred to everything that you had said about, this is the way that it went. And the truth is, I think Waz is right. Like, the Ducks went through kind of a cold, windy day, few errors that don't go your way. You get down and ultimately lose the lead, don't come back and win against Ohio State in both those games. Well, very windy day, 50-mile-an-hour winds. It was cold. It was just one of those kind of days in the second game against Iowa. And Oregon did come back and win the game. I think that over the course of a season, you start to make some of those connections and those parallels. That was one of them. That proved to be really, really helpful in Oregon earning the ultimate 1 seed here in this tournament. I think that the Ducks have demonstrated that they're on the doorstep, and the end of the regular season certainly illustrates just how good this team can be.
And you talk about the parallels, and it really was resiliency that was displayed for Oregon in that second-to-last game of the regular season. And I liken it to the second-to-last game of the regular season last year at PK Park against Washington State, where the Ducks go into the bottom of the 8th inning down 4-1, and then score 7 runs late in that game and end up beating Washington State 8-4, ultimately gives Oregon momentum through the back end of the regular season, into the conference tournament, into postseason play. It felt to me like it was very similar how Oregon closed this regular season to the way the Ducks closed the regular season last year.
It's funny you say that because I'll even take it a step further to a few years ago. Oregon was kind of sliding a little bit. The Ducks were a bubble team going into the final regular season weekend. They get an outstanding pitching performance from Turner Spoljaric. Turner Spoljaric ends up helping them win a game at Utah that they just absolutely had to win. Then the Ducks go to the Pac-12 tournament, end up winning that Pac-12 tournament, and perhaps Oregon had to win that Pac-12 tournament to get into the tournament that year a few years ago. It seems to have become a common theme that Mark Wasikowski's teams respond well when they're faced with adversity. The Ducks don't lose multiple games in a row very often, right? Under Mark Wasikowski, that's kind of become the norm, that they just don't lose back-to-back games very often. So then, to your point, like, you gain momentum with a victory like that. I think 2 years ago they did that. It's become a real theme that they finished strong in the regular season. Now, executing in the postseason, certainly going to be a big deal, right? So now the question becomes, can they really break through and keep that momentum through the Super Regionals this season?
And we've talked so much throughout the course of the season that the way that you win in the back end of the year in May and June is you get guys that step up that weren't necessarily performing early in the year. And Oregon's had a few of those guys that have stepped up recently, but a lot of the guys that have increased their play have been key contributors to Oregon's offense throughout the course of this year. Ryan Cooney's won 2 Big Ten Player of the Weeks in the last 3 weeks. Ryan Cooney, since the Ohio State series, so over the entirety of the last 2 months, he's hitting over 400. He's hitting 402 in the last month and a half. Jacob Walsh has 13 hits in his last 6 games. These are guys that have been contributing for Oregon throughout the course of the year, but it feels like there's an extra level that has come to the plate offensively with some of the big cornerstone pieces of this Oregon offense.
Well, and I think you're right that it's interesting. Like, Mark Wasikowski has said so many times to us throughout the course of the regular season that he didn't feel like Oregon was still firing on all cylinders, right? There was still some potential to be realized. And, we really haven't had a moment throughout the season, I think, where you and I have looked at each other and been like, everyone's on a hot streak right now, and that's still actually, ironically, as we're talking about this, like, that's still the case. Like Mason Neville didn't have his best weekend against Iowa in the leadoff spot, right? But Ryan Cooney sure did. Jacob Walsh sure did. And I think that experience and that you're right, the longevity of the regular season, we're seeing some of those guys step up. And I got to say, like, I was happy to see that Oregon winning the conference. I know tying with UCLA, but the Ducks won the tiebreaker series with UCLA. They took 2 of 3 from the Bruins. Like, I was glad to see 5 Ducks on the first team, including the aforementioned Jacob Walsh and Ryan Cooney, among others. You know, that I think that the coaches recognize that consistency too, because Oregon's offense has been really long this year. I mean, Ryan Cooney's hitting 8th and has been in that spot much of the season. He would probably be hitting 2nd or 3rd in a lot of other lineups just with how good his at-bats are. And I think that speaks volumes to what Oregon has done. And then to your point about Jacob Walsh, I think that he sure looked like the senior of the entire country this past weekend. And what do I mean by that? Like, that's a guy who turned down a lot of money to come back to Oregon. You don't see a guy with his skill set as a senior in college baseball very often. I know it's changed a little bit in the modern era with NIL and the shrinking of professional baseball with the reorganization of the minor leagues. But still, all that being said, this is a guy who chose not to go out in his draft year, his junior year, came back to Oregon, and boy, what a difference maker it was. Like, I think it's very safe to say Oregon does not win the regular season title without Jacob Walsh. And Oregon probably doesn't sweep Iowa without Jacob Walsh. I mean, you alluded to the weekend that he had in the last few weeks that he's had. Boy, it has been a difference maker for the Ducks. And I think that Jacob Walsh is such a prime example of, like, if you come back, you know, his batting average is about 100 points higher this year than it was last year. And he was showing up on all kinds of draft boards, right? And did get drafted and has been drafted in his life, but now has elected to come back. And you're seeing, I think, the fruits of that now. Like, that is a guy who's hitting well over 300 over the course of the entire season. And, you know, he did set an Oregon single season record for home runs this year. He broke his own total of 18 along with Sabine Ceballos. But Mason Neville's already hit 26 this year. Has also broken that record. So, you know, that puts it in context a little bit, though, of just how amazing those two have been. And I think you're right about the length of this lineup. I hope that this is a really, you know, for a lot of these guys, like being on this national stage and the conversation that's occurring nationally around a lot of Oregon's players. But Jacob Walsh is one that certainly deserves it, right? Like, electing to come back for a 4th year at Oregon, has been a starter all 4 years. You know, I hope the nation gets to see the kind of player that he is and the kind of guy that he is.
I absolutely agree on the Jacob Walsh front. And then also on the Ryan Cooney front, you talk about him making all Big Ten first team. And I think the way that he got on that Big Ten first team was really telling. Mitch Voigt, the second baseman for Michigan, he's a pro prospect. He's had a tremendous season. He locked up the second base spot. But there were 2 auxiliary spots that were open on the first team. And the coaches said that Ryan Cooney was the guy who earned one of those 2 spots. I think that was very telling in how he got on to the first team and the length of the lineup that you're talking about. Well, Ryan Cooney has been really key to setting the table for Mason Neville. And, well, I think, well, maybe a reason why Mason Neville didn't have, and sure, he didn't have his best weekend at the plate in terms of a total hit number, but he also didn't have it in terms of an RBI number because Carter Garade was cleaning up a lot of his runs batted in because Carter over the weekend hit 3 home runs. He came in with 1, he hit 3, and you have to remember last year, he was the regional MVP in the Santa Barbara Regional. The 8 spot and the 9 spot in Oregon's lineup, talk about getting hot at the right time. The back end of Oregon's lineup is starting to produce at a rapid rate.
Yeah, the bottom third's been really good. And then I'll throw in the 7 hole too, because Oregon elected to go Berkeley Mabius after Chase Meggers did kind of heat up at home 2 weeks ago now. The Ducks elected to go with Berkeley Mabius in the catcher spot, in part because Grayson Grinsel's been going so well, right? And Berkeley Mabius ends up on the all-freshman team. So that tells you something about what the Ducks' decision has been between Chase Meggers, who was arguably Oregon's best hitter down the stretch the last month of the season last year, was Oregon's leading hitter in batting average among qualified hitters last season. And Chase Meggers did start to heat up a little bit. You know, and then he has a couple hits against Iowa. Berkeley Mabius does his job behind the plate. that bottom third of the order, if you even throw in that 7 spot here down the stretch, has been excellent. And, you know, Carter Garate, it's such a cool thing. He had only hit grand slams, right? That's just what Carter did. Like, whenever he hits a home run, it was a grand slam, right? So he hits the grand slam that was really, really pivotal earlier in the weekend. Then he ends up hitting another couple home runs. Like, it, you know, that's the storybook kind of stuff believe me, it was not lost on me that here you are at the end of the regular season, and this is movie script type stuff, right? Like, the two teams that control their destiny for a Big Ten title are playing each other, not just like scoreboard watching, you know, like you have at the end of the regular season in Major League Baseball all the time. Like, no, they are playing each other, and they control their own destiny at the end of the regular season. And then you get guys like Carter Garate that step up. You know, we talked about Jacob Walsh. We talked about Ryan Cooney. Like, that's the movie script kind of stuff. And, you know, I hate to put this pressure on the team, but this is the kind of stuff that does make for a national title type of run, right? Like, you're going to have stuff like this happen where a senior can carry you a little bit. A guy like Carter Garate who isn't a power hitter, but then becomes one for a critical weekend. A guy like Ryan Cooney who puts in these plus at bats, and we talk all season long about how, you know, he can lay down a bunt and he has a productive ground out to the right side to move a guy over. Well, then he's the one that comes up with the 2 RBI double to put Oregon ahead in the second to last game of the regular season. Like, you have to have those kind of storybook type of moments, and the Ducks have had them, right? And that comes down to preparation, and certainly I'm being, you know, nostalgic even about it a little bit here and embellishing what it all means, because it is just the end of the regular season. Now it is a new season in the postseason, but like, you have to have this stuff happen. You know, this is what these types of seasons are. You're going to look back and have these memories that people always reference, and these might be a few of them.
Oregon is into postseason play, but there's a lot more to talk about with Joey Mack. Getting to part 2 of our conversation, catching up with Joey Mack from the road when we return after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
With a great selection of new Toyotas, everyone knows your summer starts here at your Toyota dealer, even your pet parrot.
Right, your summer starts here.
Well said.
Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Event ends June 2nd.
Toyota, let's go places.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
With a great selection of new Toyotas, everyone knows your summer starts here at your Toyota dealer, even your pet parrot.
Right, your summer starts here.
Well said.
Dealer inventory may vary. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Event ends June 2nd.
Toyota, let's go places.
This is Duck Insider, presented by OnPoint Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost. I had snapped. I had a gun and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still a life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone. Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider, brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Oregon baseball gearing up for the Big Ten tournament. They will play tomorrow at 4 o'clock against Michigan State, Friday at 4 o'clock against Nebraska, and if they advance Saturday and Sunday into the bracket round in the Big Ten tournament. Joey Mack will be there on the road. He'll have the call on the Oregon Sports Network. We caught up with him about an hour ago. Part 2 of the conversation with Joey Mack. You also need a legitimate ace to accomplish all the things that Oregon is looking to accomplish, and an ace that's pitching their best in the back end of the season. Over the last 5 starts for Grayson Grinsell, he's averaging 7 2/3 innings pitched, 2.5 hits allowed, less than an earned run allowed, 1.5 walks allowed, and 7.5 strikeouts. I mean, this is a legitimate ace for Grayson Grinsell. I quite frankly was a little bit shocked he didn't earn Big Ten Pitcher of the Year just because of how great he's been pitching lately for Oregon, and it feels like the Ducks roll the ball out on Friday nights, and well, it's a dominant starting performance that not only earns Oregon the win, but also saves the bullpen for the rest of the weekend. You need somebody like that if you're going to make a deep postseason run.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I see things through green and yellow lenses, so let's just get that out of the way here. But I thought Grayson Grinsell was the pitcher of the year in the conference. I mean, the statistics now are a little bit different because Jerwa has pitched in this tournament, but Grayson Grinsell led the league in wins. He's leading the league right now in RBI. In earned run average. He's third in strikeouts. He's the only guy who's thrown 3 complete games. Like, you talk about the length of the outings that he's given the Ducks, and it's really pretty amazing. I thought that every number backed up that he should be the pitcher of the year. I did. And I understand that in the one head-to-head matchup, and don't get me wrong, Joseph Jerwa was a heck of a pitcher for Michigan State. He's who won the award. But, I mean, I know that Jerwa beat Grayson in that game. Like, it's one of the few games that Grayson Grinsell has lost this year, but I just thought all the numbers backed up that he should be the guy. Now, that being said, and not like Grayson needs any motivation to be really good down the stretch, but maybe this motivates him to just be really good in this tournament and throughout the regionals and super regionals, because you're right. I mean, you give him the ball. I'm telling you, like, around the country, you give Grayson Grinsell the ball, you feel good about it. You know, that's how good and how consistent he's been down the stretch. And in his career, he has been excellent in big games. Like, there just aren't examples, apart from where he got hurt last year, like, there just aren't any examples where he has not risen to the occasion in a big game. And again, you talk about the movie script, like the things that have to go your way down the stretch. How about having an ace? How about having a guy that has All-America type numbers that you give the ball to and you feel really good about it? That's what Grayson Grinsell is right now. That's how you can sum it up. He's a guy that anyone in the country would want to give the ball to with the season on the line.
And someone who did win something of the year honors in the Big Ten. Oregon has the coach of the year in the Big Ten. Waz took home coach of the year, and Waz on Twitter afterwards said, all right, I appreciate the award, but it's the wrong title. It should be coaching staff of the year. But it is a big deal to have a coach that's recognized with a team that has been this successful throughout conference play as the coach of the year. And I'm happy that Waz got recognized with that.
I am too. And also, part of why he's so successful is because of exactly what he said on social media as soon as he gets the honor, right? So I hope Waz will be okay with me telling this story. But Ryan, it was pretty cool. So the Ducks found out before the official announcement, and Jack Martyr got to make the announcement at practice. And that was a cool moment just to see the reaction of Waz, where he was like, is this real? Like, and yeah, Waz, you're the coach of the year, you know, and in very Waz fashion, it was, yeah, well, this is coaching staff of the year, which is, again, that's part of why he's so successful. But I think, hey, you have a really, 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 really good team. There's no doubt about it. Just look at those all-conference honors, right? Look at those all-conference honors. But having the coach of the year, I think that was a cool honor for so many reasons. One of them, it's the first time the Ducks have won a conference title in the modern era. I mean, that deserves some recognition, right? And I know that's like, it's funny because is that something that this staff is really mindful of, and do they care about? Like, I mean, to an extent, yes, but it's also just this team. And this team had the coach of the year. Like, he was the coach of the year. The Ducks won so many games because of the scouting report. Like, I go back to the UCLA series, Ryan. Like, remember how many stolen bases Oregon had where there were just no throws to second base? Like, that's just one example. That's coaching. Oregon won that series against UCLA. Ducks don't win that series. Ducks don't win the regular season title. They want a share of it with UCLA, but earn the 1 seed again by getting the tiebreaker because they won that series against UCLA. I thought Oregon won that series in large part due to coaching. You know, Oregon had opportunities because of a scouting report and because of coaching. So, yeah, he was coach of the year and he deserves it. And I'm sure that when you hear the Toyota Coaches Corner tomorrow, when we do it, I think that I know what his response is going to be when I ask him the question. But we're going to ask him, and he deserves to have that moment in the sun.
He certainly does. And, you know, speaking of scouting reports, you are still on the road for business. Big Ten tournament coming up tomorrow, Friday, on the Oregon Sports Network at 3 o'clock. Just the scouting report on the Big Ten tournament. What does it look like for Oregon moving forward throughout their pool? Just what's the format? Is it any different than what we're accustomed to throughout conference play? What should we look forward to?
Well, the pool play is a little bit interesting. I mean, just the way that it sets up with Nebraska and Michigan State in Oregon's pool. Quite the game last night where Michigan State and Nebraska, both of them, the way the pool is set up with the high seed earning the tiebreaker if everyone goes 1-1, for example, you had to win, right? And that's why Michigan State threw Joseph Jerwa in the opening game, right? And Nebraska is the home team here, right? Like, it's 45 minutes away from their campus roughly, and yeah, like this is going to be, I would imagine, on Friday when Oregon plays Nebraska, a pretty red crowd. So the way that it stacks up now, you are playing for this Big Ten tournament, but the truth is the Ducks are also playing for a resume for a national seed. And I think, look, again, I see things through green and yellow lenses. I thought Oregon softball was a little underseeded as the 16 seed. That's just me, but Oregon baseball right now is in all the projections as a 8, 9, right in there. And so remember, everybody, like, if you're a top 8 seed when the selection show occurs on Memorial Day, if you're a top 8 seed, that means you're not only in line to host the regional, the 4-team regional, you're also in line to host the super regional 3-game series. And you know, the Ducks had a heck of an environment when Oral Roberts was in town. A really good Oral Roberts team. The Ducks, in some ways, just kind of ran out of gas at the end of that super regional, and I think this team is built to withstand that. You know, they have a little bit more depth on the mound. A couple injuries, they can work through them, and that was really, I think, what did that team in a couple years ago. Is there were just a few too many injuries on the hill, right? Well, knock on wood, right now, that hasn't been an issue for the Ducks. In fact, even like getting Toby Twist back the last few weeks has been a huge deal. That's another lefty that Oregon can go to out of the bullpen. And Toby's got great stuff, was working his way into the weekend rotation last year before he got hurt. So I think this team has a lot going for it in that regard. So ultimately, here's the truth. If Oregon loses to Michigan State, it doesn't matter. The Ducks have to win against Nebraska on Friday to advance to the elimination round of the championship 4-team bracket. There's 4 pods. Each winner advances to the single elimination bracket that begins Saturday, championship on Sunday. With the way the tiebreakers are, with Nebraska beating Michigan State, it actually doesn't matter what Michigan State does in Oregon's matchup with the Spartans on Thursday. So the Friday game certainly does mean more for this tournament. You also don't want to lose to Michigan State, though, if you can help it, because of all the things we just talked about with national seeding. I think that Oregon has a very legitimate chance to get a national host. I mean, I know the softball tournament had 7 of the top 8 from the SEC. I know that a lot of the projections are similar for baseball. The way that Oregon is playing right now, though, like, the Ducks are on a 10-game winning streak. They've won over 40 games. They won the league. To me, that's a national seed. I think Oregon's resume backs that up. I know that's an Oregon bias. I realize everyone who's watching and listening to Duck Insider probably realizes that bias. I'm going to keep saying it because hopefully maybe someone beyond the Oregon fan base will hear this and be like, yeah, actually, that's a good point. Oregon has won 10 straight.
4 o'clock tomorrow against Michigan State, Friday against Nebraska. Oregon has won 10 in a row. Oregon is 13th in the country in RPI. Oregon is a top 10 non-conference strength of schedule and an opportunity to win not only a Big Ten regular season title, but also a Big Ten tournament title this weekend. Joey, what else do you got for us before we let you go back to whatever you're doing on the road?
Well, the ELO rankings that are constantly evolving, and I know you're laughing as I'm bringing this up, but if you look at the ELO rankings, one of those other rankings that you can look at, the Ducks are right there in this conversation. I'm just saying. Everyone is who doesn't understand this. Like, I've talked about this the last few years, that the ELO rankings change like every second, just the way that they're evaluated.
Joey texted me over the course of the weekend and said, "Have you checked the ELO rankings?" And I was like, "Oh, great, Oregon's at 4. Awesome." And he was like, "Well, they were number 1 10 minutes ago."
Yeah, literally somebody else, there was other results that changed it. So I get it. Like, we're laughing about this. They are pretty volatile, but it's interesting the way that they're compiled. They originate from a physicist that came up with a way to rank chess grandmasters. And so the idea is, like, if it's a zero-sum game and you don't have direct results between each party, it's a way to quantify and rank them. I'm not smart enough to figure out exactly how the formula works and what influences it, but it's another way to gauge how good a team is. And the last couple of years, at the end of the year, especially, I've looked at the ELO rankings and been like, those are a little more accurate than the RPI, like in terms of who should end up being one of the national seeds. Because to give you an idea, in the RPI right now, everybody, the top 5 are from the SEC, and 6 of the top 8 are from the SEC. Like, I understand that the SEC's got a lot of teams that are good. Georgia has more than 40 wins. Texas, Arkansas, more than 40 wins. LSU, more than 40 wins. Alabama is 9. They have more than 40 wins. Like, that's a similar resume to Oregon's 41-13 mark. But when you play each other like that, that's part of how the RPI doesn't work, because you could lose a game and not change much in the RPI because of the way that it's structured. So it's an imperfect system. We've talked about this before. But I do think that Oregon has demonstrated through some of those metrics that they deserve it. Now, you got to keep winning, though, right? Like, don't give the committee a reason to knock you down a slot, I guess, is kind of the point that I'm making. But, yeah, the Ducks were number 1 in the ELO rankings not long ago, Ryan. How about that?
Joey Mack from the road, hoping that Oregon navigates through the Big Ten tournament. 4-0 over the weekend, and we get back to Eugene after a selection show, and Oregon is top 8 seed. Oregon's got to take care of business this weekend, Joey. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Ryan.
Joey Mack from the road, Oregon baseball. They took home a Big Ten regular season title over the weekend. Now this weekend, looking for a Big Ten tournament title. Oregon track and field also took home a Big Ten title this weekend and earned some honors because of it. Telling you about it when we return after this on Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, we're more than just an award-winning golf course and practice facility. Our events team offers all-inclusive event pricing that allows us to take care of all the details while you enjoy your event. Our indoor and outdoor venues offer you a wide variety of fully staffed options that put the focus on you. From weddings to business and social events, at Shadow Hills Country Club Events Center, you get the benefits of a resort atmosphere and amenities in a peaceful country setting, just minutes from downtown Eugene. Call for a tour today or visit shadowhillsevents.com.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
Back to the Country Financial Studios in 60 seconds. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
You say you never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, block. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Ryan Milano here with you on a Wednesday after Oregon Track and Field took home the 8th Big Ten title for the Ducks on the men's side of the outdoor track and field scene. And because of it, some men were honored with Big Ten season honors for outdoor track and field. Jerry Schumacher, who took home Coach of the Year in the indoor, takes home the men's outdoor track and field championship honors from the Big Ten. And also, as an athlete, Simeon Birnbaum takes home the male athlete of the championships after he put in a tremendous 1,500-meter meet record time. Simeon Birnbaum takes home the Big Ten championship athlete of the championship award. Oregon now, after the Big Tens, turns their focus to the NCAAs, and the West Regional Round will be held in College Station next week from Wednesday to Saturday, before the NCAA Championships will be in Eugene from June 11th to June 14th. So the Ducks going on the road next week for the regional round before they return back to Eugene for the NCAA Championship final at Hayward Field. That will be the final collegiate meet of the year at Hayward Field. But, of course, Hayward, in the summertime, there are plenty of high school and pro meets and everything else going on around Hayward Field. It feels like the college season, as great as the college season is one healthy appetizer to what is a full meal that it leaves you stuffed like it's Thanksgiving dinner coming up at Hayward Field over the summer. So make sure you get out to Hayward Field over the course of not this week, but early in June for the NCAA Championships to cheer on the Ducks in uniform one final time. But not the final time at Hayward Field, because there are so many events going on at Hayward over the summer, as established. Oregon softball going for a super regional victory, Oregon baseball going for a Big Ten tournament win, and Oregon track and field coming off of a Big Ten championship. We're talking about a lot more, keeping you updated on what's coming for the rest of the week and the weekend ahead. That's coming up when we return after this on Duck Inside on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, at Country Financial, they make insurance easy. Whether you're shopping for home, auto, or more, their representatives will take the time to understand your specific needs and explain what options work best for you. Worry less and feel more confident knowing you're covered. Visit countryfinancial.com to get started today. Experience more with Country Financial. Auto and home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, and Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
As a local community credit union founded by teachers, OnPoint is committed to supporting the students and faculty at the University of Oregon. And on game day, we're right there with you, on the field, in the bleachers, and in the classrooms. Drop by our local branch today and discover the many ways OnPoint can help support your financial well-being. OnPoint Community Credit Union. People are the point. Federally insured by NCAA. Equal housing opportunity.
Duck Insider continues from the Country Financial Studios in 1 minute on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow, you sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
I'm coming home to the place that I remember, back to the land of my first love. Would you spread wide your arms for this wayward son? I left my heart in
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider brought to you by OnPoint Community Credit Union. Closing out the show here on a Wednesday, it's time for the Cafe Yum 2-minute drill. Oregon, we opened the show talking about women's golf. Women's golf yesterday won their quarterfinal round to get into the semifinals, but also yesterday the Ducks came up just short in the semifinals against Northwestern, failed to advance to today's final matchup against Stanford. The Ducks, they were oh so close. Kiara Romero was down by a hole going into 18 and missed her landing spot on her approach by about 2 yards on a shot that would have cozied up really nice right next to the hole and probably would have put Oregon into a playoff. Ultimately, golf is a game of inches, if not millimeters, and ended up being just a little bit long into the bunker, and Oregon wasn't able to advance, but still a stellar season for not only Kiara Romero, but Oregon women's golf as a whole, as the Ducks in the Final Four for another year. 3 out of the last 4 Ducks have been one of the last 4 teams playing out on the golf course. Talked with Joey Mack ahead of the Oregon baseball Big Ten tournament coming up this week. The Big Ten tournament is going on right now. Oregon's first game will be tomorrow at 4 o'clock Pacific time on the Oregon Sports Network, 3:45 pregame against Michigan State. Same time on Friday against Nebraska, 4 o'clock first pitch, 3:45 pregame on the Oregon Sports Network. Now with the tournament format, Oregon is the last game of the day, both tomorrow and on Friday. So with the way the tournament goes, it might be a long pregame for Joey, who knows, but scheduled first pitch is at 4 o'clock. If it aligns with what happened yesterday, there were some extra inning games yesterday in the Big Ten tournament. The last game got started a little bit later than expected in the Big Ten tournament yesterday, but Joey will be on the air at 3:45 Pacific time regardless, and he'll hold you through both tomorrow against Michigan State and on Friday against Nebraska. The Ducks, they've won 10 in a row. The game against Michigan State won't really impact the advancement, but the Nebraska game will. The Ducks have to win the game against Nebraska to advance to the next round. Oregon softball also preparing to host the Super Regional coming up Friday, Saturday, and then a to-be-determined game, if necessary, on Sunday. Oregon softball just met with the media earlier today. We'll have the full breakdown of the Super Regional on the show for you tomorrow. That's what's coming up throughout the week. Go Ducks, everybody, and have a good one.
Race car driver, and I dedicate a lot of my time going fast. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently or having trouble with routine tasks.